Hello and welcome to another video. This time I thought I'd go direct, and I've done videos where I've asked people to debate with me. Unfortunately, no one's actually come through out of tens of thousands of people. No one wanted to debate with me, so I thought I'd just do a direct call out now. I see, as I scroll past videos of people talking about God and Jesus, etc., and they've got 500 people watching them. Looks like 500 religious people watching them, but still 500 people watching them. So why can't I just get one person, just one, that knows a tiny bit about? Well, I did have one. I'll be fair. I did have one, Elaine. She was marvelous, but out of the tens of thousands, I'm trying just to get one person that I would be able to have a sensible discussion about, whether or not, for example, Hebrew would be the first language. Because when I was at my mum's and two Jehovah Witnesses turned up and knocked at the door, they actually genuinely believed Hebrew was the first ever language, which shocked me. So I wanted to debate with people. Sorry, Sherry's wrote, hello. Hi, Sherry. Nice of you to join. Born has wrote, which god out of the thousands are we discussing here? Precisely. So really, it's more, obviously, I mean, it's a fair point. I should have actually wrote down what one, but we're more talking sort of Catholic, Christian, that kind of religion, as opposed to the 12 gods of Greece and the 12 Sumerian gods, etc. So yes, my apologies, well spotted there. So if there's any people out there that's maybe Christians or Catholics or anything that has one almighty being, Merv has wrote, hello everyone, it's been a while. Hi Clark. Clark, he's just walked in hunting around sniffing for food. Clark, someone said hello to you. He's waving back. Thank you very much. Mick has wrote, Jesus started only one Catholic apostolic church. And then Michael has wrote, Judas was a true disciple. So I'm happy to debate with people if they've got a little bit of knowledge. It'll be horrible if they sort of come on and they don't understand that Hebrew isn't the very first language ever, and it's in fact way down. So I'm happy to bring someone onto the live if they have got a little bit of knowledge, and I don't mean it to sound rude, but I've done 40 years of research, so you kind of need to have something in the tank to be able to debate. Again, I don't want to. It's not a knocking down thing, but it's whether or not you are prepared to debate with someone that will point to the original text rather than a man-made Bible. And I say man-made because after the Old Testament, we know that it was changed. We know that. You just look at the actual versions of it. Elohim changed, etc., to from plural to single and things like that. Sorry, I'm just going back to the comments, etc. Borners wrote, have you got any knowledge on Gnosticism? Not 100%. I do try and avoid religious things. Sorry, my boy's nicking something. Simply, thank you, Clark. Simply because religion was man-made. There's no point in me researching that. It's like me researching, TikTok. There's no point doing it, in my opinion. Calling has wrote Coptic language. Not really a question, so I'm not sure how to answer that. Born has wrote, you're wasting your time. You cannot mount a debate with people who base their lives on Abrahamics. I'm beginning to think you're right. I have done videos. I begged people. I have 200,000 followers and over 1 million likes. That means, just from the average, that means there's probably over 1 million more people have probably watched my videos over the course of them. I don't know. I just struggle. I'm just here asking. I'm just a guy out there asking for someone to talk to. I mean, Jehovah Witnesses if I wasn't there when my mum when I was at my mum's and they caught my mum, it would have been a different story. They wanted to leave by the time I finished with them. It's normally the other way around. I was trying to keep them there because I was educating them. Their faces looked like deers in headlights. I kid you not. Um, there was a couple of times they went, "Oh, I've heard of something," and I thought, "Wow, you just literally give your life to a book because your parents said so, because your Sunday school took you there, because whatever reason, you've given your life to a book without thinking, using your own brain and thinking, hang on a minute, let's just go back and check that this is correct. That's all you have to do. I mean, it's not God would want you to do that, wouldn't he? God wouldn't want you blindly following, because there's 4,000 different religions right now. So God would want you to do your homework and tick off all the boxes. Surely he would. If he doesn't, then again, not mocking him, but not not the sort of God I would want as a God. If he would say, no, you're going to blindly follow my version as opposed to the other 3,999, because the other 3,999 could be saying the same thing. Sorry, scrolling on. Catholic Greek for universal. I don't believe in Sky Wizard says the desert of desert of the real. No, brilliant word in there. Wayne has wrote, I can't live my life by faith because it's a belief that cannot be proved. So more about logic. Yeah. Born has wrote, have you heard of the theory Old and New Testament were switched by one God who hijacked this realm? I haven't, but you could probably imagine someone someone religious probably come up with that as a way of explaining why one minute we had multiple gods and next minute we didn't, because obviously the books were changed. So Eddie's wrote, God is real, bro. Eddie, if God is real, please request to join the live. The desert of thingy's just asked to join, but I think the desert. I kind of need someone that's believes in one person. I think you're, because you just wrote, I don't believe in the Sky Wizard, so there's no point in me chatting to you because you'll be agreeing with me. I really need. I'm desperate to talk to someone. So Eddie, if you're still around, where you said God is real, bro, please hit that chat to me, and we'll be happy to chat. The Deserts wrote, the only real God is yourself. Borners wrote, when I was a Christian, I was completely programmed. I could accept, I'm guessing that's, I could not accept any other knowledge. I mean, thank you for saying that, because that's, obviously I'm not a Christian, but that's what, from an outsider's point of view, that's the way I see it, that they do it to people, because, it sounds like you're a smart person to have worked out that, there is older writings and it all sort of matches with the Bible. Sherry's wrote to Bourne, I have heard rumours that Judaism is not as old as Christianity and Islam. The Desert of Reals wrote, there is no God, only the Matrix. We are all lighters wrote, of course he is real. He is you. He is me. He is us. He is everything. But not the Bible. Obviously, what you're talking about is not the Bible. There's no way you could be referring to the Bible, simply because I've read out on my videos, and I can point you to the actual translations of the tablets that predate the Bible, where Enki says basically he's the father, he creates us, and that's why it's masculine, not because we've decided that it's going to be masculine, that God should be masculine, even though he could be any number of however many genders there are nowadays. It's because Enki was a male, and he created us using his essence and what they called MEs. So when you say he's in all of us, I'm guessing you're referring to what the Anunnaki would call the source of everything. Eddie's wrote, there's so much more to Christianity than the Bible. Please, Eddie, if you're still listening, I'm literally begging people here. I've done 2 videos which has had over, I don't know how many tens of thousands of views. I've gone on to other people's chats, and I've gone on to other people's posts, and said, where they're talking about Jesus and God and everything else. I said, oh, hey, would you like to do a live debate? I don't know what more to do. I'm struggling. Bourne has wrote to Sherry. All of them were used to control civilizations purely indoctrination systems. Melina has wrote, wow, JW Corporations America. Nah, you have not enough knowledge about all. I'm sorry, I'm leaving not. Yeah, that confused me there. Somehow Corporations of American came into that. I have no idea where that came from. Sorry. Diaz wrote, that's true. I did 5 years studying with JW, then I left. It's I don't want to bash them because my mum wants to believe in a God. Not necessarily in a particular religion, but she wants to believe that there's an almighty being looking over her, and that's absolutely fine if she wants to believe that. But I have tried to explain to her that the Bible version of what's looking over is literally just an alien race guy, blonde hair, blue eyes, genetically modified, then possibly Neanderthal that was here at the time. Bourne has wrote, oh, sorry, someone's popped up and 2 requests. Kitty, do you please, I'm going to accept you, but please be someone that believes in God as opposed to agreeing with me, because otherwise it's going to be a real short trip. Oh, no, I think she's gone. Oh, what a shame. That happens. Calling Michael's right. Jesus did not want to enter the spirit world as human form. See, the thing is, when you get to Jesus, or as as Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear and whatever else would say, "Boo Jesus," which I find very funny when he says it the way he says it. When you get to Jesus, you have to look at it I have to look at it from a logical point of view, and when you realise that the dates straight away of his birthday, so before he even does any magic tricks, and by the way, I read again. This is the 3rd time now I've read where so Moses had help parting the sea, if you remember the stories, to help his band of merry men cross the ocean. There's an ancient story in Egypt where a pharaoh calls for his vizier and he parts the river. And now I've read in ancient translations, guess what? I'm trying to remember it now. Enlil parted a river. Now you could say, well, is it parted? Did they sit there and build a dam? You could argue that, I guess. Or did they have tech? Force field. I have no idea what kind of tech, but did they have the tech to? But that's the 3rd version of parting waters that I've heard. Sorry, Joseph wrote, "The sun is the god." See, the problem with the word God is it actually genuinely means Elohim, which is plural. So no, the sun is not God. You can't have, because technically the sun is, there's only one of them in our. I mean, there could have been 2. It possibly was a binary star system, like the one we're in now, our little Milky Way. But either way, you can't say God. You could say the sun is a deity if you want, but you can't call him God. God. Eddie's wrote to Born, probably, but doesn't mean there is truth in its principles. Mike has wrote, nope, marine fossils were found on mountain tops. Not sure what that nope was for. I totally agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not sure where you was going with that. Steve has wrote, if God is invoked, it is real. Um, the desert has wrote. Has anyone watched Zeitgeist? Um, Possibly. I can't remember if I have. Sorry. Sweetings has wrote. I got beaten by my 9-iron golf club in my house. Jules has wrote. I found God through logic and critical thinking, and also science and history. So when you say God, I'm guessing you're again. It can't be God. I'm guessing there's a divine something that you found through logic and critical thinking, I guess. Michael's wrote, eggshells need a protein that come from hens only. Wayne has wrote, you said you would make me a mod next time I was on. No problem, Wayne. Add as monitors. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I did say remind me. There's no way I would have remembered. Thank you, Wayne, for joining and helping out. Innocent Lovers wrote, God created everything, including the sun. You cannot stare at the sun, therefore cannot sight God. Problem with that, sorry, this is just how my brain works, is have you seen an arc welder? Have you seen a nuclear bomb? The problem is two of those you would not want to look at with your eyes. Are they gods now? I'm being serious because obviously you're choosing something that's producing heat and light as a deity, but you then could say, well, a nuclear bomb was created because of the sun. If we didn't have the sun, therefore, we wouldn't be able to be creating a nuclear weapon or arc welder. But um, sorry, God created everything, including the sun. Sorry, my fault. My brain was going off on one there. So how do you know that? Is it the Bible? This is where I'm trying to get at. Will's asked me right. So Will, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to people that believe in the Bible. Really, I should have actually said that. So hopefully I'll let you join, but hopefully you're someone that believes in the Bible that will be able to have a chat with me. So here comes Will, and just waiting for Will to join.
Hello, my friend.
Hi, Will. How you doing?
I'm good, my friend. Good.
Thank you. So can I ask, because I've only done live chats with random strangers a couple of times, and one was drunk and had no idea what I was talking about, and the second one kind of wanted money for Serbia or something. So, do you know anything about religion or anything like that?
I do indeed, my friend. I do indeed.
Brilliant.
And if you go back in a few scriptures, the Bible was the people that actually writ about God and so forth and so on couldn't read or write. They couldn't read or write.
Okay, sorry. I'm listening.
So basically, if you really go back into it, the Bible's obviously you've got the Old Testament and the New Testament and so forth and so on, but the original Bible scripture, the people that announced or released the God's word and the God so forth and so on, couldn't read or write, and I was quite shocked about that. And also, there's a documentary. It's about the astronaut that went to space. And when that guy went to space, when he came back, the people asked, "Did you see God?" And he said, "Yes, I did see her, and she's black."
Okay, I mean unfortunately that's hearsay.
I know I'm hearsay,
Yeah.
but when you hear something like that, it's quite an eye opener because obviously, God the Father, God the Mother, God the Holy Spirit, and so forth and so on. So,
Okay, sorry. Can I just go back to I'm just trying to get it in my head where we're going with the fact that they can't read or write.
The tourists. It's from that guy. He's all about the Antarctica. I mean, obviously, I've been listening to him quite a lot. I've forgotten his name now. Hang on 2 seconds. I'll just bring it up on my YouTube because I watched it last night, and it was quite like I say, I've been having quite an eye opener myself. Um, I'm I'm a Christian. I've been baptized twice. I was baptized when I was born, and then because I went into foster care, I was then baptized again. And 13 years ago, I broke my neck, C1 fracture. I got a titanium rod in my neck. Now I shouldn't be here, my friend, or
Right.
I should be in a chair. Now
Right.
I'm not saying, obviously everybody says it's luck and everything else. I don't believe that because someone was on my shoulder and I walked across 3 rugby fields. This is a true story. I walked across 3 widths of 3 rugby fields with a C1 fracture. I walked. I took my own trainers off with nobody helped me. I then had to wait in the medical room for 2 hours for the ambulance. When the ambulance did turn up, they said, "Where's his neck brace?" Obviously, was completely baffled and how I was still, breathing and having the ability just to be awake. I had to stay awake till like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was taken to Torbay Hospital. I had a C1 fracture. I went into shock. I went into paralysis. I couldn't move at all in any way, shape, or form, but still survived. Next day, it was like, obviously I couldn't move and I had a cage put on my head for 4.5 months. It didn't heal because bone regrows when you break it. It does actually regrow, but it didn't regrow back. It just basically smoothed itself over. Now, I believe I was touched by the God above. I believe I'm here for it.
Could I just interject there?
Yeah.
So obviously at this point, because I'm a very logical person, I don't know if you've seen in my video, so forgive me if it comes across as rude. It's just I'm so logical, it's unreal.
Yeah,
So at this point, there was nothing other than your belief that it was God that was helping you. Is that correct?
No, someone was helping me walk across those fields, mate. I walked across 3 widths of 3 rugby fields across the
Okay,
garden.
sorry. Yeah, I'm getting to a point actually. Sorry.
Go on,
So, so at this point, there is nothing to say it was God that was helping you across. Is that correct?
well, I can't see it being anybody else. It was an angel of some sort. It was some kind of spirit keeping me going and keeping me.
Okay, yeah. So
me,
I was going to
yeah.
mention that I don't know if you know about the light energy beings, the orbs that basically join with us when we're 3 to
Absolutely,
4 months in the womb.
they're the guardians of the God. They're the guardians of God. God is all around us, mate. God is the earth, the trees, the air you breathe.
Sorry, I have to rein that back because obviously that's just again. I'm like I say, forgive me. I'm very logical. So you're going by the word
fine. Like I
God.
say, mate, it is because we've got a purpose. We've got a purpose. We are basically the God. We are God's image. We are God's children. We are
Right,
God's
okay, can I
children.
stop you right there? Can I stop you right there? So, okay, what you've done is you've now differentiated between an almighty being and God that created us. Hold that thought. So you've gone from the Bible's version of that. Is that correct? You have to because that's where you've got that from. That God, we
I'm
made
not
us
saying any
in
some
His image.
scriptures from the Bible. Of course, I haven't because I have read the Bible. So, but obviously, when certain things happen to you, when you have certain traumatic things and that and everything else, and when you are really alone, because we are all alone,
I
we
know.
live
I'm
together,
sorry. I'm just
alone.
trying
In the
to narrow it down to certain points because I understand what you're saying and you believe, but if I told you that there's ancient texts that predate the Bible, so you understand that Hebrew wasn't the first language, you understand that it was Aramaic, Assyrian, Babylonian, Sumerian, etc., all way before
Mhm.
Hebrew. You know that. If I said to you that there's ancient texts that literally spell out that an entity not an all-powerful entity, but an entity with a white beard, blue eyes, had help with his half-sister, was on this planet, and they concocted the idea to genetically modify a hominid species, more than likely Neanderthal, over in the Abzu, which is all written in ancient text way before the Bible, and basically says that the brother of Enki says, no, you're not going to create him in our image. And Enki says, well, we have to. And then if I also told you that when they finally created, because they tried about 7 times, each one failed. When they finally got the first one, they called him Adamu. So basically what I'm saying to you is if I told you that a lot of the stuff you're believing in the Bible is actually written, predates the Bible with a proper lineage story, as opposed to the Bible where it jumps and bits go missing, and obviously that's because of the different translations. What would you say if I told you that I can point you to the translations, and it's not by one particular person, it's by many different scholars that when they first translated it right up until now, you can even read, there's a dictionary out there of the actual ancient tablets. What would you say to that?
Or what I would say to that is, if you listen to Billy Carson.
Oh, no, please don't point me to Billy Carson. I've debunked, well, not debunked. He's Billy Carson. I've done videos where I've shown Billy Carson being wrong.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are some things, but that's, I would say, our imagination as well, because obviously our imagination comes into that. But
so you think, sorry, I have to drill down. This is
any sculpture, any sort could not read or write, and that's who I got it off, Billy Carson.
Right, ignore Billy. Seriously, I've got.
I mean, I've researched a few things myself, and obviously took a few things out of the Bible, and it's a bit hard to ignore, to be fair, and also to what's happened to myself, and I you know.
Right, I'm just sorry. I'm just trying to get
that because, but there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason, because otherwise, what is the point?
Sorry.
There's no point going through all learning how to not to treat your neighbour properly, or basically treat your spouse right. There's no right for all those guidelines, and just to die, and that's it. There's got
that's going back to belief. The problem we've got with that is, in a few million years, our universe is going to bash into another one. Our solar system is going to bash into another one. That's looks like, from everything that everyone says, that's going to happen. So there is no harmony. God didn't sit there and go, do you know what? I'm going to make it all harmony. No, the people right at that point when another solar system crashes into ours are not going to go, yeah, he screwed up on this one. This is it. There is no
people that actually went against his word, and then they chose to believe in other gods or believe in other things, and just basically, lie, sin, whatever you call it, everything else, and they sort of like went, "Yeah, come on then."
Right.
Trust
me, go back?
We're his children, and at the end of the day,
Enki's children.
We are his children. We are his children.
Yes, Enki's children. If I told you that I can point you to tablets where it talks about Enki being the father of Adam and Eve, or as they were originally called, Adapa and Titi. If I pointed you to that, what would you say?
Oh no, I've that's what I mean. I have gone on to that as well. That's what I mean. There is certain things. There was two brothers. There was two brothers that were at battle with each other.
Yes, but Enki.
There is an Almighty One, and he basically, he lets you get away with it for so long, and then at the end of the day, he will show his power, and he's going to show his power, and that's what I mean. That's when he refreshes the world. That's what probably the flood was all about. When he refreshed the world, he basically.
If I point you to where the flood tablets are,
that actually happened. He saved the world.
If I pointed to the flood tablet that literally says Enki told Noah, or Zazudra as his name was. If I told you and showed you the tablet that's in the British Museum, even the curator of the British Museum reads out, Enki tells Noah, not God. How can you? Sorry, let's get back to the Billy Carson thing.
and something traumatic has to happen to you before you do believe. I do believe that. You do have to be at your last breath, or your, your last loss. I mean, you literally have nothing, and honestly, he will show himself to you.
But Enki was what the Bible talks. Anyway, let's get back to. I'm still trying to narrow down. We keep changing subject.
Enki went against him. Enki went against him. He's not here anymore. Enki went against him. He might have helped out. Enki's not here anymore. He's not. Do you know what I mean? Obviously,
I know Enki died. Yeah, and that's also the Anunnaki are not here anymore, and suddenly angels stopped turning up, which were messengers.
No, the angels are still here, but they can't intervene.
No. Look back at the Bible.
Well, I think my personal view. Sorry, I don't know this for sure, but my personal view is that they're not allowed to intervene. They're not allowed to intervene. They're allowed to push you. They're allowed. Yeah, they're allowed to. Yeah.
Everyone saw them back in the olden days because they wrote about them. Angel did this, and angel did that.
Certain things that happen. Do you believe in miracles? Do you believe in miracles?
No, I can't go by belief. If we go by belief, then I am a god. Because listen, watch this. Hey Google, what's my name?
Your name is God.
Right, so we have to rule out belief. We're just trying to narrow it down to the facts.
That's a machine talking to you saying that, you know.
Yeah, I know. But the point is, you'll keep saying to me that I have to believe because you believe, and I can't do that.
I am not, honestly, my friend. I am not telling you to believe, but when your time will come, you will believe. Do you know what I mean? There will be a time for you to believe, and we all go through that stage where we don't believe, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But when you really, really search and really, really search, and then something really, really happens to you, you'll see it, and it will be there. And do you know what I mean? Because mate, it has to be. Because honestly, it really, really has to be. Because otherwise, there is no point in all of this.
But that's the problem. You're attributing something because you want it to be, because you believe that there needs to be a reason for everything.
I'm sorry for that, but that's how what he's probably passed on. His messages to me. That's how I feel. He's pushed on to me. And that's what I believe in. I can't stop that belief now. You know? Do you know what I mean? Because obviously, because of what's happened to me now and where I am now, I believe I can't not believe.
But what? You know, okay. I mean, I could have said, why isn't it one of the other 3,000 gods?
You know, because
if there's a Christian god, why wasn't it Vishnu?
And another, you know, the reason why I do believe is because I believe in the devil. I believe in evil, and if evil's real, then God is real. Do you know what I mean? So, and trust me, there's a lot of evil here, mate, but the good will win after all. You know, okay, it's not a movie. That's not a movie. As far as I'm concerned, if there's the devil, which there is, because there is pure evil, then there is a God.
So the thing is, again, that's subjective. That's subjective.
Well, okay, it might sound subjective.
No. On a serious note, it's subjective, because what's evil to us? If, for example, if I took my cat to the vets, the cat would think I'm evil as hell, having an injection and everything, because it has no comprehension of what my motives are. So if something looks evil to you, you cannot 100% say that is evil, because whatever it's doing for its own reason, which may be a better reason than what you believe is evil.
To me is is like something like you purposely lying to someone, you purposely living off their suffering, and you're profiting off their suffering. You know, them not being happy makes you happy, and that to me is evil. You know, that means you've got no feeling at all. And I've got feeling of love and kindness, and I do want people to do well. And if someone's doing well, I want them to carry on doing well, because if they're doing well, I'm going to do well, because I'm going to boost off their energy, because we're all connected. We're all connected in some way, shape or form, whether you're on the other side of the planet or not. We are all connected because we are all one. Because you're all one God's children. That's just how and obviously that's a verse out of the Bible, but it sort of fits because it's true. We are all one.
I could point to anyway. Right, let's just get back to the billion.
Billy Carson thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Billy Carson, like I say, it's only certain things I like about what he says, and I will take what I feel is correct or incorrect. And I know sometimes, but obviously we've all got to. He's sort of trying to. He's just trying to.
I'm still trying to figure out what the significance of people not being able to read and write is. You haven't sort of in your head, you've got it, but I'm trying to get it from your head. So is it that the people that wrote the Hebrew Bible over however many, probably hundreds of years, they all couldn't read and write? Is that where we're going with it? Or are you saying that the people that translated the ancient tablets couldn't read the translations correctly?
They're called what they're called. They're not called. They're called the four. Let me just listen to so I get it right, because otherwise I'll say what he said, and it's the four. There was four actually, and they couldn't actually read or write. Let me just listen to him. Give me 2 seconds, my friend. All right.
Okay.
Because otherwise,
yeah, no worries.
You know.
Really appreciate Carson, and I thought this video quite interesting.
Bit where he says, "You two need to calm down." It's like, do you believe in giants?
I believe there were giants. Yeah.
Yeah, and part of that flood thing as well is where they was the first cleansing, basically. But some of them
not really. Not really. If you read the original tablets, and I mean the original tab, not Bible, it was mainly to do with the humans.
Who actually did the original tablets couldn't read or write, apparently. And if I'm wrong, that's what I just got from Billy Carson. The persons that wrote the original tablets actually couldn't read or write.
And there's 2 million tablets at least. So Billy's. This is why I say you can't listen to Billy. And these ain't written. They even named the scribes in the ancient text. Billy, don't make me come out and give you a dry slap.
Billy. He's just doing it. He's just trying to make a living as well at the same time.
I know. Right. So there's 2 million of these ancient tablets. And they named the scribes. They actually name, and they're human scribes. So basically, they taught these humans how to, same as ancient Egypt as well, which is another story for another day. But they, in fact, Ra's wife was a scribe, but that's another. But so yeah, basically, forget what Billy says. We've got the names actually of the scribes that wrote the tablets. So when he says that no one could read or write, and they magically 2 million tablets, and some of them just talk about how much lard's needed for the palace. An almighty being didn't give one person the knowledge to go around and write in cuneiform, the very first language ever, without a previous language before that. Think about that. The only way you'd get that is if a race already, such as the Anunnaki, already had their own fully fledged language, so that when it starts writing, you haven't got cock-ups and half parts, and everything is logical.
I don't mean to talk over you, but didn't they find that civilization that was way before the birth of Christ and so forth and so on, and it couldn't explain how this civilization was to be here, and because there's no mention of this civilization. And there's so many, the scientists, they just brush it off. But the town of Tepe, something to
Göbekli Tepe.
Yes, that's the one. And but
right.
yeah.
So okay, so just give it without sounding rude, a sort of history lesson. So,
mate, I'm open. I'm an open book as well, my friend. All right.
Okay. It's brilliant. Brilliant. So basically, from the tablets, we can read the tablets. I can point you to many different translations of them, but again, they're virtually all the same.
Well, I think there's a reason before that as well, is because there's just block knowledge that we're obviously supposed to know, but we don't get told that. Only the people at the Yeah, I do.
Oh, yeah. The
Yeah.
elites certainly tied the tablets of. The only reason why we know what we know now from the ancient tablets is because they were found 200 odd years ago, which is, again, how the hell would, people back then, like Enoch, etc., know that there's ice on Lahmu, which is Mars, the north and south pole of it? We wouldn't know that unless, which,
Sure,
as
no.
the tablets say, they landed on Mars and
Yeah.
refilled.
It's like Antarctica wasn't just it never used to be just all ice,
No, it was a continent. Yeah,
it was a constant, and obviously it's still frozen over. Now it's melting, and those buildings, whatever else, are being revealed. And Neil Armstrong, he actually went down with a bunch of leaders.
That's right.
And
yeah,
the leaders went down there as well. And apparently he tweeted out, "There's pure evil here, pure evil." And then basically he was told to remove that tweet, but that tweet did get out. It did get out to the millions. And then he retracted it. But then they said he got sick. He said he had a heart attack and so forth and so on. And nothing else has been said about that. It's also when Neil Armstrong went. No, hang on, let me finish. When Neil Armstrong went to the moon, obviously, if you believe that or not, I don't know. I'm not too sure about that because there's a little bit of iffy about. But when he did return, Neil Armstrong went a little bit mad, and apparently he went to the jungle in.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. Actually,
he went to look for the book of the gods. Is it the book of the golden book? Yeah, and he did a big exhibition out there and everything else. But where did he? And apparently he was given that information. Where did he get that information from? Do you know what I mean? So I do you see there's these little. They give you these little crumbs. They always give you these little crumbs.
Can I just look at it from a different perspective?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. No,
so
absolutely.
Admiral Byrd admitted that the military were on the North Pole, and they were basically trying to set up a base because he basically found more land. Not extra land, more land, basically land that's not covered over in Antarctica. Yeah. So that's what he says.
On the North and the South Pole, actually next to each other. They're not where like you think they're actually next to each other. If you look on some old maps, it actually got the North Pole and the South Pole, and it's quite interesting to see that actually the North Pole and the South Pole are quite next to each other. Yeah. Which is that's in some old maps. If you look at some old maps, it's really, but it's just very open. It opens your mind. I'm not trying to say again. I'm not trying to put the world's flat because I don't believe that. But obviously, they've. If you look on, there's never been a mission to space. There's never been a mission to space, and you can look this up for yourself. There's never been a mission to space where they shot at a satellite and then with a telescope on it and turned it round and looked directly at the Earth and done a 360. Gone, there's the Earth and gone round and round and round.
Okay, right, a couple of things because you keep jumping gun here. So hold that thought about that. I'll point that out in a sec. So going back to the pure evil in Antarctica, yeah?
Yeah.
So as I was saying, military will use Antarctica. If there's land there, they will be there. That's a given. And obviously we know that because there was the Antarctic Treaty. So we know the Americans are already there. So hold this thought. Neil Armstrong goes over there, sees what the Americans are up to, and calls them pure evil.
It could be that. Yeah, it could be that. I don't know, mate. But forgetting, the Germans went there first, wasn't it? It was Hitler, because Hitler basically.
Yeah, they were there as well. Yeah, so he could be talking about the what they used to be Nazis back then, but yeah.
Yeah, he could. But he could have found there could be things there that would be like, whoa. Do you know what I mean? If everybody really knew what really was going on at Antarctica, it was just a frosted, just snow and all that, because it's far from that.
Oh yeah. I mean, the military's there for sure.
I mean, we'd all be there because why is it that you have to get permission to go over there? You have to get permission to see certain things. Why is that? Because at the end of the day, what gets me is that you can attack any other country, any other thing you can, make war on. But the one place where every single country has made an agreement has made an agreement not to touch it, not to claim it in any way, shape, or form. And they've all agreed, though they all ate each other's guts at the moment, you know, whatever, or the West and the South, whatever you call it, is quite an eye-opener, considering that they can make a treaty to not do that to Antarctica. Why is that?
Well,
do you know what I mean?
if it's true what I heard, I've heard it a few times since, but back in the 80s, I heard they'd found a spaceship under the ice. This is their words from a whistleblower that was the size of a city. Now, more recent, I've heard someone describe it as, you know, miles long. So you tell me how big a city is, but. And then obviously you've got the Oumuamua, which is also a mile long. So if there was a craft there, then that would explain why they don't want anyone to go there, and they buy off countries. I don't know if you know, they buy off countries. They tried to buy off Brazil way back, but Brazil said, no, we're going to do our own research into UFOs, etc. And then eventually...
Yeah, but
they had so much pressure from America that they had to agree to Americans' terms, and America now pays them to keep quiet about aliens. So, but going back to the camera turning round, so there is footage, and you probably, I don't know how old you are, but back in the 90s, we used to see what they had as live streams from space, and in those live streams, we would see. Not just live streams, but also recorded footage. But in the live streams, we would see UFOs flying around.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of those videos from back then. They're grainy footage, but they were from there. So first of all, we do have two things. We have one, wherever that space station was that was taking the footage would show equal distance all around. So that rules out the flat Earth. Sorry, go on.
No, what I'm trying to say, it doesn't show you the whole planet. No,
because it's not too high. Yeah, I mean, it's only a tiny fraction up when you look at the thing. But what it does do...
Why not? Because if you can show the whole planet of Jupiter, and you can show the whole planet of Saturn,
you have to be far enough away to be able to see it. I mean, literally, the space station's only, get a football, and the space station's only about a centimetre off of a football, so it's not...
But if you can send a telescope into the vast of space, what's to make you not turn it around and just say, "There's Earth"?
Because
Earth. Why?
If it captures UFOs, same reason why as I was mentioning before, the live streams. They used to pull the live streams off. They actually cut the live streams. Now, from that point, because of the
people getting ridiculed for having their beliefs, that would give people the real answer, and we are supposed to be getting the real answers. The government,
they're never going to give us that. They allow people to be abducted by aliens. They're never going to give us the answer. They've got free energy, free technology that we have to pay for fuel, fossil fuels, etc., when they have anti-gravity technology and have had it for at least 40 odd years. So there's no way they're going to relinquish I think it's been by telling us.
I think it's been longer than that. I think it's been to the times of the Egyptians. The Egyptians, we had that. I believe the pyramids ain't tombs. They keep saying they're tombs, but they never found a single pharaoh in those pyramids, and
Correct.
They've never found a single. And it's just like, So do you know what I mean? And it's like they're telling you. But then they're going to just but then they're going to add a little bit of a lie, but then they'll add a little bit of a conspiracy to it to sort of like get you all like, and that's the trigger. It's like, we all believe in. I mean, you believe in aliens, don't you?
Yeah.
Have you seen one?
Possibly. I was. It's a long short story, but. Possibly. I was paralysed, and what I thought was a little 3-foot figure was right beside my bed. And as soon as that walked around the corner, I was in a hotel. As soon as it walked around the corner by the toilet, I suddenly could my arm literally sprang up, and I'd only been asleep for 2 minutes because it was 12 o'clock. I got a text message, read that, went back to sleep. I heard myself saying, "Please leave me alone, please leave me alone, please." And I remember thinking to myself, why am I saying that? Managed to open one of my eyes, saw what I thought was something small beside my bed, It walked towards another one at the end of the bed. They both turned the corner into where the toilet is, and then my arm sprang right up. I jumped up, grabbed the phone, and 2 minutes at 12:02 was the time. So like I say, it's possible. I don't know. I don't want to get hypnotized because
No, you're not. No. This is what I mean. This is what it's about. What you're doing is really, really good, mate. Even if you think logically or anything like that, in some respects, you don't. You on certain things you don't. I mean, you believe in aliens because you thought you saw one, and so forth and so on. But there are people that believe in aliens and haven't even seen one, or haven't seen a UFO. They've only just seen what they've seen on TV or what they've read in a book, and so forth and so on. And therefore, but when it comes to God, you're like, do you know what I mean? But you're quick enough to go like, there's aliens. Do you know what I mean? But
well, I'll tell you why I believed in aliens before this. I've been doing this for 40 years.
I know, but let me finish. What I'm trying to say is, we're in 2023 now, and there's been mention of aliens since before the Christ and everything else as well. There've been pictures, and so forth and so on, and all this. And people are more likely to believe that than to believe in an almighty being. And I can't see, if you can believe that, then you should have some kind of belief in that as well. That, I mean, they both fit the same to me, they fit the same kind of narrative.
So why I don't believe in the Bible?
But I won't be able to tell you, because when I pass on, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to the light. I'm going to where, I've done my bit. I've learnt my lesson. And if I don't learn my lesson, I believe I will be reincarnated and have to start again until I get it. And that's what I believe it is. I believe that's what happens, because I believe in reincarnation. I do believe in that. But the reincarnation.
If your light energy being joined another baby for you to relearn again, where's that baby's light energy being? Where's that baby's soul? Well, that means you've got two souls in there then.
But that's what past life and deja. That's just me, how I see deja vu and when you get like a familiar smell and you don't know why you like that smell. You could just walk in a room and you there's that familiar smell, or you've been there before but you haven't. There's no way you've been there before, because you know what I mean. So what is that? So I do believe there is. You do. Yeah, and a part of you goes back to guide the next. So yeah, maybe you do join, and maybe you do join another soul. So that's the
problem then is if you two then go and join another body, then there's three souls and it becomes exponential.
Well, yeah, but there you go. That's probably life, isn't it? But we just don't know. I just don't know. Like I say, I don't know, because obviously I haven't passed on yet. But when I did nearly die, mate. And as far as I'm concerned,
I understand that. Yeah,
I've been left just to sort of I've got a lot more to learn. And
so if you hadn't read the Bible and no one ever mentioned, so really the truth of the matter is, if that Bible wasn't written in the first place, no one would know about Jesus and God.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, because I mean, basically, sometimes some of the Bible, because they changed it, didn't they? And I believe they did that because obviously to keep people guessing, to keep people in this kind of you do feel like something's missing in your life as you start growing up. I mean, I'm 44 years of age, nearly up to 50, mate, and I never spoke like this when I was a lad. I thought the world owed me a favour and stuff like that, and I was a bit of an idiot. But as I've got older and sort of stood back and actually, looked at myself and so forth and so on, and some of the teachings I've been taught by my parents and adults above as well, because obviously my parents passed on at a very young age and I was 3. I went into foster care and so forth and so on. And, do you know what I mean? But I can't not know that someone wasn't there because of what.
But on a serious note, and
that is a serious note.
If the Bible and your family and there was no churches and everything else, you might have said it was a spirit guardian that was with you. You wouldn't have said angel because obviously you got the word angel from the Bible.
When you go about churches and all that as well, I mean, the bells were all, if you go back in history as well, the bells were all removed. Why is that? You know, there's a scarce of bells and also towers. I mean, if you look back in history of London, London used to have lots of towers and churches and spikes and all that, and apparently they were sources of energy, of good energy for happiness and that. And no, those buildings have been torn down, like churches have been burnt down and so forth and so on. And like I say, I do believe we're going to get a big shock. Whether it's going to happen soon or not, I don't know. But I do believe something's coming to show us all, and it's going to be an eye opener. And I don't believe he's going to just like, you know, he's not. But I do believe we're going to be taught a valid lesson.
So from your point of view, did God create everything all at once, you know, in those six days?
7, wasn't it?
Well, he rested on the 7th.
Rested on the 7th, yeah. Well, because they say what is above is below as well.
That goes back to the Sumerian tablets. But so, if I point out to you that the Hawaii is a couple of 100,000 years old, and on that island, which was a volcanic island, it had absolutely everything that was new to it, and only on that island. Yeah. In other words, stuff evolved on that island that didn't evolve anywhere else on the planet. Do you think God came back and thought, you know what, that's a nice little place, I'll stick some new creatures on there? Or do you think it was evolution based off of chemicals bashing into each other, which we can now actually do? We can create life from about 5 different chemicals that actually now create life. You can go and look that up. So if we can create life from just chemicals, why couldn't it have just been chemicals? Or did God come back and say, you know what, I like the look of that island, I'm going to put some new stuff on there?
I could see it. Like I say, I could see it from a scientific and logical view. I could absolutely, but I don't. I do believe that. I believe in magic. I believe in miracles. I believe in those things. I believe that you can meet someone like first time and get a vibe off them. I believe that we're all connected in a certain way and all that. And if that's the case, then the scientific's just another way of trying to avoid that and say, no, it's not that. And I think, well, there's so much to sort of like say it's not that it must be. That's why I think like that. If that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying. Again, though, the problem with that is, you know, if I lost my keys and suddenly found them, I could just say, oh, well, that's because, and start using any excuse that I want. Oh, I met my new girlfriend because. Do you see what I mean? So the problem with that is because there's no evidence to it, you could just literally say anything you want and say that's because. I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying it's too easy to do that, and that's why I sort of go by what I can from facts.
But you probably had a normal upbringing, haven't you? Without being rude, you probably had a normal upbringing. You know, your parents, your mum and dad, and everything else. I don't know them, mate. I don't know them at all. I had a picture, and I've lost that picture, you know, as time's gone by. But I don't have any picture image of my parents in any way, shape, or form. And you know, I've tried finding them as well and all that. I'm not trying to say I'm the, you know, whatever, but you know, but I've moved around everywhere, and everywhere I've moved to, I've never been alone. I've never walked alone, if you know what I mean. Always someone's been there to help me and all that and everything else. And I used to think it was just, you know, but it happened so many times, and I've lost things all my life, and I'm not making this shit up. But I've always managed to bounce back because something's just, and I just believe that something is him pushing me. It's him. It is. Or it could be.
How would you say that to the people that, you know, the stillborns or the children with disabilities or the children that get killed by their parents at a young age, McCann's? How would you? God's not looking out for everyone, so why you?
as I say, I think in some respects as well, when you say things like that, life's cruel, man. Life is cruel, and it's hard to love, and it's hard to get up in the morning and go to work, and it's hard to give, and it's hard enough. It's easy to give up. It's easy, do you know what I mean? And I just think you sometimes, you've got to let you do it yourself. You're responsible for your life. This is your life, so live it. LIVIN. You're welcome. Kind of thing. And then, but if you cross that line, you will meet your maker.
But like I say, though, children, back in the war times and everything, they didn't ask. They didn't have any knowledge of how to be good or bad. They just ended up being killed. And kids get trafficked nowadays. And
yeah, but I think the evil, has been around for a very, very long time, and his time is coming up to an end. His time is coming into his end, and that's probably because everybody goes back in Scripture for all these events that are happening now. I mean, look what's happening now. If you look what's happening all over the world, it's not just it's horrific, and and that makes you. I totally agree. So why are we going through all this pain? Why are we still suffering? Why are there still people profiting from your suffering? Because they are, and they don't saying that they care. They keep saying, "Okay, we will help you. We will help you," but they don't help you. They do reverse psychology, and they make it your fault. So why is that happening? And I do believe their time is coming, but obviously they've just they've got something that's kept this power, and I believe now it's going to go to the rightful, heir or heirs. It could be more. It could be more than one God. It could be an actual, the number 10. Is it number 10? No, the 9. The people of 9, is it? So that's going. I'm going a bit over the, but there's the 9. The 9. Is it the 9? I know I've watched some documentary about the 9.
12 gods originally.
Yeah, but then it went down to 9, didn't it? It was 9 or something. 9. And I believe some of them are bad and some of them are good. And and obviously it's only a select few, but that's like I say, I'm only going by what I've watched on the documentaries I've watched and the books I've read, and sitting there with people that have, gone to places and stuff like you've just told me now. I will research that about the tablets and because I want to know more, because there's so much coming out now. There's so much happening, and it just can't carry on. It can't carry on because, like I say, why are we trying to destroy the one place where it should be? We should all be living in harmony. I mean, not saying that we all should be like happy days like all the time, but we should know how to live with each other. We should know. You should know from right from wrong, and you should know that, if he wants to be, if that person wants to be that, then they want to be that, as long as they're not harming anyone, as long as they're not trying to push their beliefs onto them, because I don't believe in that. You shouldn't push your beliefs.
No, I agree. That's why Enki did the right thing when he did absolutely. What do you call it? The 10 Commandments. Enki did, and if you look at the actual original tablets for the 10 Commandments, which there's a fraction of, the very start of it says Enki, again, little old Enki kicking around. But also, there's if I pointed you to the actual tablets for the translations of the first 7 days of creation, which in the Bible says God did this, God did that, and then on 7th day rested. If I pointed you to the tablets that the Bible copied from, where it literally says Enki catalogued water on the first day, catalogued insects, catalogued plants, and on the 7th day said, from now on, this is a day of rest, because when you work out that they actually every 7 days is 1 day for them on their own planet, 7 days and 7 nights, so it worked out to be 1 whole day. So it makes a lot more sense that, when you look at the original tablets.
And then you've got the 369. You've got the 369, which is the predominant numbers of like basically, I know that's Tesla, but it comes up in any equation in that as well, because maths and numbers do have some kind of, and shapes and spirals and so forth and so on, have some kind of significance to our lives and to us as a thing. Well, because even buildings have to be built in a mathematical geometrical way, if I remember rightly, if that's how it's said. And also, if you times 369 by 10, you get the distance from the Earth to the moon, and then from the moon to the sun, if you times it again, and then you get these numbers keep coming up. These numbers keep coming up, and that's can't be a coincidence.
Well, the thing is, there's a thing called Bode's law.
Yes,
so
that's right.
That's where that comes from. So basically, Bode's law is from the sun outwards, every planet is double the distance. So it's not a mathematical thing. It's just that's just the way it seems to be on.
Yeah, but how?
In a big wide.
Doesn't that make you feel a big?
No, because it's the same as I've done videos on numbers where I point out where people say, I mean, even Ancient Aliens did one on the number 9, and then they also done one a few seasons later on the number 3, saying this is the magic number. You could pick any number, literally, you could pick it, and it's the same as when they say about the pyramids, and they say, roll back the date to 12,000 years, and it points up to the shafts point up to Orion. First of all, the shafts actually turn, so they never come out to Orion. But also, I did the video where I said, if you turn back, the time to, 5 years ago, my front door was facing. You could literally just keep turning the clock back until you find something to fit that you want it to fit. And that goes with the same with the numbers, I think.
Time isn't real. Time isn't time. There is no such thing as time. I mean, Einstein said that. There's no such thing as time. You can't. There's no such thing as time. And then it's weird that they go. There was a theory about black holes, and then all of a sudden we can find one.
There is. I mean, technically there is time. Otherwise, we would be staying in the same place at one point. But time is relative.
So it's the morning, and so we know it's the morning. You know what time to get up and everything. And so, but if you was to take time away, mate, you have all the time in the world. You don't. There is no such time.
The sun will still, and the universe and our solar system will still be moving and expanding, and that is time.
We didn't have clocks in them.
Yeah, I mean, the Anunnaki gave us the time. If you again go back to the ancient tablets, you'll find that that's where we got the calendar from, which ended up being Stonehenge as well as many of these.
I just find it so but that's what I mean. I just find it so amazing why these things are. They looked at things. There was people that looked at the planets, and the planets were plasma. And there was a guy before we went to the moon. But he said that we won't be able to go to the moon because his theory that the moon was plasma.
The most times that people go to hospitals for headaches is when it's a full moon.
Yeah.
And that's because we're bags of ugly, mostly water.
Yeah.
Which means it's a tide.
Do you know what I mean? You know these things as well.
Because of the gravity.
So why doesn't it? I mean, to me, that opens my mind. It just makes this. It makes certain things fit together. And when you start putting it, I mean, obviously, it's a web of fucking. You'll never. I don't believe we'll ever find the answer, but I believe that by doing what we're doing now, we should all be doing. We should all be doing because I think then we would. But then if you do find the answer, maybe then you go. Do you know what I mean? Because there was civilizations that just disappeared from this planet. Where did they go?
Well, technically, the earliest civilizations would have been the Anunnaki in Eridu, which was Middle East. That's the oldest known civilization ever.
Yeah, but all over the planet, there's like drawings and so forth of alien beings, star people. I mean, the Indians.
They all came after the Anunnaki. There was no humans before the Anunnaki, Enki and Enlil. There's no humans whatsoever. There's no one drew anything, carved anything, wrote anything ever before 450,000 years ago, which really,
Monks, that's
you know,
right. Yeah, monks. They didn't. That's what I mean. They never wrote and nothing like that. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And there's things like that. That when things like that said to you, so how? And then you've got there was a tribal guy. I can't remember the name of the tribe. But they basically did an interview with this tribal guy. It was like David Icke. I mean, I find him a very bit strange sometimes with what he says and about reptilians and all that. But we won't go into that.
Yeah.
We'll just war. You know what I mean? But he did meet a tribal guy, and he said that when the moon arrived
yeah.
as
See,
an
the
egg.
problem right there is we do, there is cause and effect with the moon. So it's either we have tides that just so happens that the moon. So in order for these chemicals to bash into each other billions of years ago to create life, before God came along, or Anunnaki, chemicals created life. This is pretty obvious. So in order for life to create, you need the chemicals to bash into each other. In other words, to join together. And the only way you would get that is if there was a tide. Now, I've heard the stories of people saying that the moon came here while they could see it. The problem we've got with that is we've got ancient texts where Enki and his son Marduk went to the moon before humans were even created.
Yeah, because that's why they've got all those. That's probably why they've got.
So that's wrong, basically.
Yeah.
We've got tablets saying the moon was here before humans. So there's no way a tribal person will say that he saw a moon appear. Zero.
No, that's what one of their tribes believed that the moon arrived. That I'm just saying what he relayed that the day. That's what he was. It might be that, like I say, it might in ways. People sort of like describe things in different ways, don't they? Because obviously, they haven't got technology or anything like that, so they basically, so they might have been saying it in the way that you're saying it, but obviously they've said it in that way. So do you know what I mean? So it gives you a different view, if that makes sense.
Also, there's the Chinese whispers, because obviously if it's hearsay, which it is from down, I would rather go with the tablets that talk about the chariots going to the moon. They call them chariot spacecraft.
Chinese whispers is going on right this second. I guarantee it, mate. Everybody does that.
Oh, I agree.
You've added a little bit to the story because it's just, I think it's just the way we're made, to be honest. I think it's because obviously because we all think differently, because we are, that's what I mean. In that respects, we are all different in that respects, but at the same time, we are all the same, regardless of what gender you are, so yeah. But it's like
if I pointed out a couple of things, what would this change your mind? So if I pointed out that humans have got 2 fused chromosomes, which is done in a laboratory setting. So, and we've got tablets where it says Enki and his half sister created humans using a clay bowl, etc. Yeah, so we've got the tablets. So that's the first thing.
I would relate to that and say, like, I think they removed those things to stop us from gaining our powers, and I don't mean like we are a lot more than we're supposed to be. I've been doing a lot of manifesting stuff and so forth, and meditating and so forth and so on, and only little things. I'm not asking for much because I don't want to be greedy, and I don't. It's obviously. You have to do it for a very long time. So, and you have to also learn the laws by it as well, because I do believe that, it's like, you've got good magic and black magic and dark magic. You've got that. That's been proven. Do you know what I mean? So I don't want to put bad karma on myself, but at the same time, I believe that that's been taken off us or out of our genes or out of our, our DNA. But
that must have been done by someone very advanced. Would you not agree?
Yeah, absolutely. But could they still be doing that in practice now when you're born? You don't know that. I mean, they take you away, don't they? And they say they're just doing this and doing that, but you don't know what they're doing. Do you know what I'm
No.
saying? But I know and I'm not saying that they know either. This is what I mean. It's like when you've got the area, apparently you've got Area 51, and they're working on a spaceship, but they're not all working on the same spaceship and the same idea. They're all in compartments, and apparently they don't know what the other person's doing.
Correct.
And do you know what I mean? So they could be doing the same thing as well, because obviously they don't want you to have this one thing, only a certain select few of the bloodline, because it could be to do with bloodline and so forth, and families and so forth and so on, which I do believe is in charge. You know, and also
if I told you that an alien race came here, genetically modified humans 300,000 years ago, then 200,000 years ago, Enki had relationships, well basically had his wicked way with two of those human women, which gave birth to Adam and Eve. And from that point, that's when he started writing down, because obviously he was a prince. That's why he started writing Adam and Eve's lineage. But if I said to you that at that point we ended up with, that's where and when we got the Rh negative blood, which is if you go by the British medical thing, it's a disease. So we ended up with a foreign blood type that shouldn't be here at the same point in time that the tablets talk about the Anunnaki breeding with the humans that they're genetically created before that. And that's how you get your bloodline. That's how we get the kings and queens. And in fact, they did actually give kings and queens scepters, crown of scepters. Who gave them the rights to give kings and queens scepters? The Anunnaki gave them the rights, because God didn't give them the rights to do that. They were the God. Their race name is Elohim.
Yeah. No, I do. I can relate to that. I could see your point on that as well. Yeah. That is, yeah. But I just think but then again, who made them? Do you know what I mean?
Chemicals.
Yeah.
Like I say, we can create life now using 5 different chemicals. I did a video on it, but you can just look it up.
Yeah, exactly. You just go full circle, don't you? Go full circle, really. I do see what. Yeah, no, it's sod you. But you know, again, like I say, I'm not going to push my beliefs on you, but you know, it keeps me going. It keeps a smile on my face.
Yeah.
And
no, that's brilliant.
But at the same time, I'm always open to, because that's how that's how you grow, my friend. That's how you grow.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
If you banish everything and just believe in one thing, then I'm sorry, you're just a bullshitter. You know what I mean? But if you're not willing to sort of like, you know, open your mind up a bit more and just see, then absolutely, you know what I mean? So 100%, mate.
Well, I mean, you know, from what you were saying earlier, because of the research that I do, and I go back to the tablets from the Anunnaki, they talk about curses, and they talk about lifting curses.
That's right.
Now, if before I read that, I was like, yeah, no, don't believe it. But because now I've read that, you know, there must be some truth to it.
Yeah. No,
in my opinion,
it's like, you know, like fiction, isn't it? It's like fiction. You know, where did fiction come from? You know, where did, like, you know, somebody didn't just get up in the morning and make Star Wars the movie. He must have had some kind of, like, do you know what I mean? It might have been put in his dream, like he might have had a dream or something like that. But something inspired that person to do that. Yeah. And do you know what I mean? And forget Richard fucking what's his name, Richard and all that, and Branson and all that. They were just chosen as puppets. You know, they're far from like you know, people that I would really look up to, because they didn't earn or they don't deserve what they've got, and they've got their power or their what's-its because someone's given it to them, or they've stolen it off someone. Or, you know what I mean? And I believe that's what's happened as well. Is like all these tablets, as you say, has got so much information that is kept from the masses and owned to a select few. And then it's right, you put this out now, you know, and you will be in charge of this, and this will, you know, this will give you great wealth. I mean, sometimes when I listen to Elon Musk, he's supposed to be a really right, you know, but when he talks, I just think, what the fuck did you say? Do you know what I mean? And also, how? And if you're this great, amazing guy who can take us to Mars, why hasn't you stopped hunger? Why haven't you stopped all this devastation? Because they bloody could. There's four people on this planet that I know that have got the power and have got the means to change this whole fucking shit show into a fucking good show. Do you know what I mean? But they choose not to. They choose to go to fucking Mars, or they choose to stick a fucking satellite in space, or do you know what I mean? And then they say, like, you know, everybody's, the cost of living is like, people are starving, people are like struggling, people are like wasting their, do you know what I mean? But you can't have that. You can't be happy down here, but you can be bloody happy on Mars. There's nothing on Mars as far as I'm concerned. It is a red dusted planet, as all the pictures show. So, you know, there's no internet, there's no Facebook, there's no TikTok, there's no bloody McDonald's or whatever, or there's no shelter or anything else.
But what if, I'm just being devil's advocate, what if, Musk had tried that, and the elite families, you know, there's the supposed 13 families, the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and whatever, what if they've basically said, you do not interfere with the power play that's here at the moment. You can mess around with space for now.
Yeah, you could be being blackmailed. Yeah, it could be like, that's. But what gives even the elites to hold it against the people? Because do you know what I mean? And that's just my belief as well. It's like, you know, the government, and you know, I'm going to go on about the government and leaders of this planet. That we vote for them to work for us, to make our lives better. Totally. So we just get on with our lives and live a life, which everybody should be able to live a life, regardless of what, you know, as long as you're not on, you know, as long as you're not taking the Michael, as long as you keep in line with, you know, truth and all that, which is absolutely, you know, God sent, but. You know, but they don't. But they profit off people's fear and everything else. And I just can't understand how can that be? So I believe it's a battle of good and evil. And at the moment, the evil's they are boosting it out, and that's why we're all thinking like this. That's why we're all like this. I really do. I think that's why we're all asking questions. Why? Because it's not right. It's not, you know. I mean, still Ethiopia apparently is still starving. We've been giving them money for 40 odd years now, charity wise, millions of pounds. Where's all that? Where's that all gone? Why is there still droughts? Why isn't there any kind of water complex or anything like that? Do you know what I mean? I just don't get it, because you can make a droid that goes on a planet and go around the planet, and it's still going around this planet to this day, without any recharge or anything like that. How the fuck? But we can't fucking, do you know what I mean? It just makes me so like, what the fuck? There's got to be, mate. There's got to be a reason for that. And I just think it's just like, the good have lost a bit, and they just need to sort of like stand up to this fucking evil that's around at the moment. And that's,
I'm with you on that. I totally agree.
It's because it's evil, and evil to me is the devil, or whatever, you know, as they call it. Because, you know, evil to me is sinning, and I don't mean like white lies, because I've nicked in my lifetime, and I've lied, and I've cheated, and I've been an idiot, but I've learnt by it. And, you know, some people don't, because they still think the world owes them one, until they sort of obviously grow up, or karma comes really back and down on them. And some people have really lots of good karma, they don't get the karma until obviously when they pass on, and maybe they get their karma then. But I just can't see. I just don't. So that's what brings me back to thinking that there's got to be an Almighty. But
if I told you that the Anunnaki said that there was a creator of everything. In other words, not what the Bible says, because the Bible is copy, and we've got I could go through. In fact, there's a book from 1912.
The Bible was made. I reckon the Bible was made to like this. To be fair, religion is being used as a weapon, because now they're trying to change
Yeah.
God's name, aren't they? They're trying to change God the Father, because, and I'm sorry, whoever is gay out there, I'm not homophobic. I just, at the end of the day, I don't understand. I don't understand. I mean, yeah, I have looked at a bloke and thought, yeah, he's good looking, but it doesn't mean I want to have sex with him. But but that doesn't make me gay. But obviously, sometimes I've been told, no, that does make you gay. And it's like, no, I did hairdressing. I was called gay at school. I did hairdressing. And honestly, every time I got on the bus, I know I'm changing the subject a bit, but I'm just trying to make a point. And I was called gay all the time. You're gay because you do hairdressing and all that. And because I like acting, and I spent more time with my foster mum than I did my dad. But that's because obviously my dad wasn't a role model, and he was a very nasty man, at the same time. But at the same time, I just don't think it's right. And also changing your body parts, because at the same time, there are only two genders, and through anything. And I think the only thing that's got the same gender is insects. I might be wrong, but
there's a couple of things out there that I think can basically procreate with themselves.
And apparently penguins, which I found out yesterday, apparently penguins can have a gay relations. You can have two male penguins, and they can have children, but doesn't mean but the male penguin has to still have sex with a female to have that child, but the two males can have a child, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that I defeated that argument with him, and it was just like, just to sort of like, because everybody's going on about, is gay immoral? Now I feel like if you're asking if gays are moral, then you feel that you must feel like you're doing something wrong. You see what I'm saying? If that makes sense. Because
I mean, my take on
whatever you do behind closed doors, absolutely. And obviously, like I said, I've just gone over to a different subject, but I think it all comes into play. I think it all comes into play where it all divides us in some way, shape, or form. Same with your black, white, and it does not matter. It does not matter. We are all genetically in our DNA the same.
Yeah.
But obviously, because if we were all the same, like visually, then you wouldn't cherish the beauty of things, would you? Really, if it was all the same, because you've seen it, because it's different. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what it's all about. It's always a different tree. It's never the same tree. It's a different tree. But yeah, so as I say, it's all connected, and I just think now, I think that's why this is all happening, because it's all happening at once. It's not just one thing. It's all coming, and we're having changes of weather. Apparently, the Earth is now going the other way. It's stopped, and it stopped spinning. And it's spinning the other way, is it? Or it's changed its...
I've not heard that, but I've not heard that.
Yeah, there's apparently that it's on the thing, because there's also the Yellowstone. Apparently, more magma has come through now. I mean, obviously, there hasn't been an eruption in Yellowstone since so many years. I mean, thousands of whatever. But now that they're looking at Yellowstone again, because obviously they're obviously just keeping an eye on it, because magma is starting to pump through, and if that goes off, mate, we're buggered. So if that's the case, I can't see Russia or China or even America deciding to sort of like throw bombs at each other, because they've got that Yellowstone volcano, and that comes to mind. So so where, if we do, well, we are at war, but if it does get worse, where is it going to be battled? And I think it's going to be battled up there, up in space, where they were told not to do it. And I believe, I don't know if we went to the moon, but in some ways I do think we did, because obviously, certain things weren't shown to us, because if we saw what was really on the moon, then we would all be like, whoa, and then these leaders would fall. That's what I think. You know, if we knew what really was the truth, these leaders that are in power would crumble because the people would go, hang on a minute, there's another civilization on the moon, or there was another civilization on the moon. How dare, you know, what, and you've kept all the secrets and you've kept all this, and you're just giving us little crumbs every now and again. Like, here's your new PlayStation 4 or something like that, you know, something as stupid as that. But, you know, it's just a stupid example. But yeah, mate, my brain is so full of stuff you would not believe. And I am so grateful for you letting me have a little chat.
That's all right, no worries.
And
So from today, then I guess what we've learned is not really to listen to Billy Carson.
no. You got me on that one.
And to follow our true history on TikTok.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. If they don't ban it, and but they won't, because obviously, and I will tell you one thing before I go. You know, when they had the Congress thing with TikTok and everything.
Yeah,
this will be. I don't know if you know this, but Mark Zuckerberg actually tried to buy TikTok.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
and he also had a baby with a Chinese girl as well, and he went to you know, and all that and everything else. And there's a little bit more in it, and it seems to me the only thing again that two sides can, you know, Democrats and what's the other one called? Oh, I can't remember what they're called now.
Republican.
But they all joined forces and they all agreed on something, which is quite an eye opener. They all agreed on something. There was no disagreement. Both sides agreed to get rid of TikTok.
Yeah,
and that should really scare everybody in the world.
Oh, I agree.
Do you know what I mean? Because TikTok is freedom of speech. It's probably the only freedom of speech we really have got left. Because Facebook isn't. Because I know that because I put stuff on Facebook that I get from TikTok and it gets banned, and I get a warning, and I've been blocked and everything else. And this is totally true. And you know, or they don't send my videos out. I don't get many views and shit like that. And it sometimes happens when I do like a video. I might just do a video and I might say a phrase or say something against the masses, and I get my video, the sound taken off, literally taken off, and I get a warning, and I've gone against the guidelines, and I've gone, what? Because I've got that off someone, and I've actually just relayed my version of it, basically keep spreading the word, and it is happening, mate. And that's quite, you know, like I say, it's just quite scary. And like I say, we're all started to being shut up. They don't want us talking like this, mate. They really don't. And I really have enjoyed speaking to you, my friend, honestly. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And hopefully you might just spend a few minutes looking up, you know, the cuneiform translations.
Please send me that information, please. Please send me that information. I would love to. Yeah, no, I really would, because it would, like I say, it's just more knowledge, mate. More knowledge for the pie. Honestly, thank you very much. Honestly, thank you.
Okay, I've just followed you, so I'll send that to you a bit later.
All right, you take care of yourself. All right, all the best.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll carry on for another 10 minutes on here, but thank you very much for taking the time.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. Sorry I wasn't reading out any messages while I was chatting to that gentleman. It was very nice of him to even take the time. I know I've asked thousands of times before, but so I'm just going to scroll down to try and see if there's any questions that I did miss. Obviously, there's questions here about what was being said at the time. Obviously, I can't remember exactly where these questions were. Sweetings has wrote Egypt was lush forest and rivers. That seems to be the general consensus. But the interesting thing was Giza. Depends. I guess it depends on how far back you go. But, you know, okay, I won't waffle on. So Soifra has wrote, I once was in denial too, mate. I'm guessing that's to do with the other gentleman. Andy Spirits wrote, I might grab some digestive biscuits for this conversation. Oh, bless you. I would like to have kept it on point. the differences between the Bible and but obviously, the people's got their own opinions. Kent Winnie's wrote Kettles on. Mr. Something had wrote, what about the ice wall? The problem with the ice wall is until someone can show me a picture of an ice wall that's behind Australia, not South Pole and North Pole, which no one can because there is no ice behind Australia. Otherwise, if it's a flat Earth, people with telescopes in Australia would be able to see it. It's only 4,000 miles, and telescopes can go way further than that. But Eric's wrote White Walkers. Tammy's wrote something. Sorry. I'll be quick, Tammy, and I'll get to your point. I know you pinned it, but it's just literally by the time I saw it, it was gone. Eric wrote, White Walkers are behind the wall. If only we could find an ice wall. Honestly, we haven't got one. You'll see pictures of ice, and show me the geotag on them, and you'll find it's North or South Pole. Sweetings has wrote, the moon was a show-off between Russia and USA. Sophras wrote, I'd take a White Walker at this point, laugh out loud. Just scrolling down, people chatting to each other. Jim Bad has wrote, absolutely glued here. The type of people I can actually have a decent conversation without being shunned. Oh, that's very nice of you to say that. Yeah, he's, I'm so happy that he even took the time. I mean, you have no idea how many people have watched my videos where I've asked people to do a debate, and no one does. So it was really nice that he's took the time. I'd like to think at the end of that he's maybe slightly changed his tune. He obviously still wants to believe that there's an almighty being, which is fine. But I think he's open enough to go now and look into possibility that the Bible is a copy off of the ancient text, which Winnie's wrote, everyone changed their Facebook profile to CEO of TikTok. Yes, I know. They should. Even I should. If I get 5 minutes, I'll do that. Panache has wrote, so what had MZ wife ethnicity got to do with anything? So what had MZ? I don't know who MZ is. Moses? I don't know. So what had MZ's wife ethnicity got to do with anything? I don't know who MZ is. Sorry. Andy Spirits wrote, wish my migraine will clear off. Couldn't possibly be the heaviest session last night. Sean has wrote, hi wifey. That's probably to one of the ladies here on this. Panache has wrote Mark Zuckerberg's. What from what the guy was saying? Okay, sorry, yeah. I don't know where he was going with that. Maybe to get citizenship in China, maybe. So he could if he's got citizenship in China, then he could probably set up businesses, maybe. Lewis has wrote Our True History Rocks. Oh, thank you very much. Winnie's wrote, they need to get rid of all the other platforms. They have all been compromised. Yeah, I mean, even that DuckDuckGo got compromised, didn't it, by Facebook buying it out. So, was it Facebook or Google? Google, I think, bought it out. Sweetings has wrote, comes down to money. TikTok is Chinese and makes much more money advertising. Yeah, that's what they say. But also, if you go back to the 2 years when the big C was happening 2 years ago, the American government were after TikTok then by saying that it was spreading misinformation. But of course it wasn't. It was just us lot having our own opinions on what we thought was happening. It turns out those opinions seem to be right. So they've been after it for I guess 2 reasons now. One is money, and 2 would be to stop us being able to talk like we are now. So Sawyer has wrote, Big Brother, if you get rid of TikTok, you will lose my thirst traps. Laugh out loud. I don't know what thirst traps is, sorry. It's probably a colloquialism. Panache has wrote, AI run things now. We took too long to act. Funny you should say that, Panache. I don't know if you're aware of this, but France, I think in the last day or so, has allowed computer AI, proper AI, not just computer camera, for example, looking at you and then saying, okay, this person's face matches this name, they're now allowing the AI, the type of AI that's in chatbots, the chat GP3 or whatever it's called, which if you go back to my one of my earliest live chats, I said that back in the 80s, I heard from a remote viewer that in the future, we are going to be run by AI. And his words were, you wouldn't be able to walk into, you can watch my old videos, and this is before, all this AI came out. He said that we won't be able to walk into a building without the AI letting us in that building. And France has now got that approval to do that. That is scarily crazy. The fact that this guy said it back in the 80s, and back then we had ZX81s and Spectrums and Commodore Amigas and, no artificial intelligence. And now it's happening. So you're right, we are too late. Lewis has wrote, join his Patreon page. I'm guessing that's mine. I do have a Patreon page, by the way, everybody. Lewis has kindly made me read it out. And it's got lots of videos, got some interesting things in there. I actually broke down recently a couple of things. One, which I've not done a video on, but it's on my Patreon page. I've not told anyone. But on my Patreon page, I did the true Planet of the Apes. Did you know there was a species on Earth that is in the ancient tablets where Enlil comes across, and it was monkey-like? This is in description, not me saying it. It's obviously, but back then, obviously monkeys were a thing. Monkey-like, with canine instincts. This is the wording, and was as smart as humans. Think about that for a second. So I've done a video on that. It even names them. So go and watch that video if you want to. But that's one of them. And also I did a video on my Patreon page recently, just a few days back, on Nibiru, which is a planet supposedly in our solar system. Now, I looked at Dr. Michael Heiser, who basically on his website says that there's no mention of Nibiru and the Anunnaki on any tablets connected. Well, I like to take a challenge up. So you can probably guess what I found out. I've already debunked and made Heiser look silly. In fact, I made him look so silly that he ended up changing his website, because I did a video and he must have seen it because I had thousands of views on it. And his website changed shortly after I pointed out where he was in error. Interesting. Coincidence, maybe? Or he realised that he was wrong and I was right. Sweetings wrote, knowledge is king. It is, isn't it? I mean, bless that guy. He had a lot of feelings because he felt, the way he did. And if you want to feel that way in terms of religion and everything else, that's totally fine. But I can't do that. I have to go, as you guys know. So for me, knowledge is king. But for other people, gut feelings or even just feelings is more important than researching, I guess. So has wrote, Mr. Host, can you set me up with an Anunnaki? I don't know them personally. They are they're 8 to 12 foot tall. So yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. You know where I'm going with that. Wayne has wrote, that was a great live chat. Enjoyed it. Oh, thank you very much, Wayne. Yeah, sorry I didn't read out any comments. But thank you. And Winnie's wrote, really enjoyed this live. Yeah, I might try and do another one. I really want to stay on topic, but obviously if you guys enjoyed the changing of it, but I did, especially with the Billy Carson thing, I wanted to get back to, because it's all well and good reeling off stuff, but I needed to narrow down on it and get where he was going with these things. So forgive me if I kept pulling stuff back, but that's just who I am. I needed to know what Billy was up to nowadays. Tammy's wrote, my true history, are you talking about God being Elohim, as in Ancient Aliens? Yes. Yeah, so basically, the translations, the word God is Elohim, which is plural, so it's gods. We've attributed all this magical stuff to them because the Bible wrote about stuff because they took translations off of Aramaic, Babylonian from Syrian. So basically, it was a long list down the line, and then even English off of the Hebrew. And they didn't have the words to say UFO, flying spaceship, levitation, laser beams. No one had those words back then. So when the Anunnaki wrote stuff down, after the translation, different translations down to the Hebrew just wrote what they thought it kind of meant from the Chinese whispers from the different translations, which also got it wrong, got it wrong, got it wrong. So, but we've actually got the Sumerian tablets, so we can actually read them now and say, yeah, Adam did go to the planet Nibiru. We can read that. And King Anu on planet Nibiru basically said, send him back to his Earth. We've got that. I've read that out. So yeah, the whatever the Bible's talking about in whatever up until Jesus, pretty much, we've got ancient tablets that predate the Bible that the Bible copied from. I mean, there's a 1912 book, before Zachariah Sitchin came along, called Cuneiform Parallels to the Old Testament. In other words, whoever translated this book is I can't remember the guy's name, but back in 1912, he's translated these tablets and gone, hang on a minute, this is in the Bible, but these predate the Bible. And so he's wrote a book and wrote the parallel, literally wrote the translations out of what was in the ancient tablets, which you can then go and read in one of the man-made Bibles. So yeah, definitely ancient aliens, and they were from a planet called Nibiru, which again you can just watch my Patreon video on Nibiru, but also you can just go read the translations. It's there for anyone to read. Andy Spirits wrote, thoughts about my picture of the towers under the pyramids. Yeah, very cool picture, actually. Thank you for sending me that, Andy. Yeah, so Andy sent a video of his where it looks like the pyramids continue under. So in other words, just like Easter Island, where we only see the tips of it, Andy sent me a picture saying, well, what if the pyramids actually went deeper down? And it's a fair point. I guess they would have probably... I'd like to think they would have dug a little bit further under to see whether or not there was one more brick, and then one more brick under that as they cleared off the sand, because it was obviously partially covered, and obviously the Sphinx was covered right up to the head when we first rediscovered it. I hate saying rediscovered because technically someone else would have had to have discovered it, which technically they did, but then they would have rediscovered it. So, in other words, Napoleon, who supposedly went there, he would have discovered it, but of course, the people that were around when it was still around, without the dust and without the sand covering it, they wouldn't have discovered it because it was their own monument. So I don't know. Sorry, waffling on there. Tracy has wrote, God is real, end of story. But that's your belief. If I pointed you to all the things I can point you to, I mean, Tracy, you have to. I mean, you're going by faith, and because you're saying end of story, that's clearly a faith thing. Because if it wasn't, you'd say, okay, show me because you'd want facts. So it's either faith or facts, and you've gone for the faith because you said end of story, and you're not interested in the facts. See, if it was me, I would say, if I was religious, I'd still want to see the facts, and I'd say, show me it so I could debunk me and say, nope, those tablets were 2 million of them were made up for a giggle by, however many different translates people typing it, scribes. So unfortunately, Tracy, what you've done is you've just gone by faith. So when you say end of story, it's not really the end of story. It's end of story for you because that's where you want it to end. Because you do not want to look into the facts, which is fine. But don't tell me it's the end of the story because it's not. Eric wrote, when I look through my telescope watching the round Jupiter spin, I wonder who made this all. Well, if If you look at Halley's Comet that comes round, it's on an orbit. And we know that because it comes around every 70 odd years, and we've known that for thousands of years. You know, we've got people documenting Halley's Comet thousands of years ago. So we know every 70 odd years it comes round, which means it's on an orbit, which means as a rock, technically an ice rock, but still possibly a rock inside it, it will eventually, you know, if you roll back time when there was lots of these rocks spinning round, eventually they would have probably hit each other and stuck and went round in an orbit, you know, as more and more rocks hit them. And eventually you end up with a moon or a planet. So it wasn't God because if you watch one of my very early videos, which I do love that analogy, because you had people like George Norrie, who used to say, or still does, that there must be a God because everything's in harmony. Well, first of all, I've already pointed out that our solar system, you know, way down the line, will smash into another one, so that's not harmony. But also, if you roll it back, if you believe the universe is expanding, as the theory of everything goes, that was Stephen Hawking's. If you roll it back to a single point, even if it wasn't a single point, but if you roll it back, then things were bashing into each other. I mean, there should have been a planet in between Saturn and Jupiter. So, and again, A, because of Bode's law, and B, because it's said so in the ancient text, the Human Relish in the British Museum. It was a planet called Tiamat. So when that got smashed up, that became apparently became Earth and the Moon and the asteroid belt. So it's not perfect harmony. So when I look through my telescope watching around Jupiter spin, I wonder who made it all. You can clearly see then from you know, the evidence with the ancient tablets and the way that Halley's Comet goes around, etc., that it's just time. You give something enough time, and just like the pool table, if you smash the pool table at the beginning, all the balls go everywhere. Chaos. Balls going down the pockets, balls smashing into each other. But enough time, those balls settle down. Obviously, in the case of our universe, things are apparently still moving, but at a very slow rate, or slow to us. So yeah. Dixie's wrote to Tracy, yes, I think so. In other words, Dixie's agreeing that there is a God, end of story. Fine if you want to believe that. I just can't do that. SS has wrote, save ICWA. I have no idea what ICWA is, sorry. Riz the Biz has wrote, there is still one creator we can call God. The Anunnaki story is true. Yeah, I mean, if you believe the Anunnaki saying that there's a creator of everything, which they seem to believe, then you can call him what you like. I probably wouldn't call it God, because obviously God is Elohim. But an almighty being, but it's certainly not the one in the Bible, because we've got tablets talking about Enki doing stuff for the first 6 days and then having a rest. Users 55s, please don't be blinded to believe in all these false teachings that are on here. I'm guessing you're saying me. I'm guessing you're saying that the millions of tablets compared to the one Bible, the millions of tablets are wrong, false teachings, but the one book is right. The logic just doesn't sit right with me on that one. SS has wrote 6509 children being dug up on church graveyards. Okay, I'm not sure what that was going on that. Tracy's wrote to Dixie's, I had a near-death experience. I know he's real. Now, could it not have been a spirit guide? Which, if you talk to mediums, clairvoyants, and spiritualists, they'll tell you there is spirit guides. If you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, you believe there's spirit guides. The only reference to an almighty being is the Bible, because obviously the Anunnaki don't reference themselves as an Almighty being. So I would say you probably didn't see God, because let's be honest, no one sees God. Otherwise, Noah would have seen God when instead of him hiding behind the reed wall, Enki hid behind a wall. And Moses didn't see God when he'd come down in his fiery, funny that, making a loud sound like a waterfall if you actually want to read it properly, but maybe you don't. You want to just ignore that and make it sound like he came down on a feather. He didn't. He came down on a loud noise. But so yeah, no one's seen God. I mean, you could say, well, Michelangelo did. White beard, blue eyes, white hair. Hang on a minute. The Anunnaki had white hair, blue eyes, blonde beard. Funny that. And so did the Greek gods. Mister has wrote, I'm not saying that the Earth is flat, but what is important for the Antarctic Treaty and the secrecy. So what is so important? Possibly a crashed craft or a spaceship under the ice. That's what I heard way back, many, many years ago. But even still, you could then say, well, maybe there are pyramids on there, as some people seem to suggest, just by aerial photography. So it's obviously an ultra strategic location, because from Antarctica that no one's going to want to fire at, because no one realizes that there's nuclear weapons probably now on Antarctica. It's a brilliant plan. I would do that, wouldn't you? If you was a power monger. Dixie's wrote random info. Butter works to remove super glue. Interesting. I'd hate to figure out how you figured that out. It's not something you would. Yeah. Anyway, SS has wrote they're getting rid of us Native Americans. To be fair with you, I think they're going to get rid of everyone except 500 million, which is what the Georgia Guidestones pretty much said, and they decided that they wanted that removed as well. Tracy's wrote, God is in us all. See, how can you say that when the Bible literally talks about the Lord doing this and the Lord doing that? Because then you could say, well, what about the Holy Trinity? Which, if you listen to any top preacher or anyone, they'll say they have really no idea what the Holy Trinity is. Obviously, Enlil, and Anu, but I'm not going to tell you that. But how could God be in us all when the Bible doesn't say that God's within us all, unless it says God created us in his image, which is what the ancient tablets talk about. So yeah, I still can't say the Elohim, which is that's the race, that's plural, is in us, because you can't say God. You have to say gods, because if you're saying God, if anyone that says God, then they're really just going by the man-made changed version from the Old Testament, because that had gods. That was plural, in his image and in their likeness and whatnot. So really, you don't believe in the Bible that much, because I'm not being facetious, but you can't pick and choose. You either go by the original one, which would be the logical one to go by, or ones that have been changed, because you can go back to the original one where Enoch's been taken out, for example, on the newer ones. So which one is it? You can't pick and choose. This is what does slightly wind me up with religious people with the Bible, is they pick and choose what they want to read. And again, I've done that many a time when I say the sons of God stole came unto them the daughters of man, but no one wants to talk about that, because selective reading, and that's where it falls flat, I think. Panache has wrote, who was the first person to translate the Emerald Tablets? How did they know what it said? I don't know. Forgive me. I can't remember what the supposed original language was of the Emerald Tablets. You can find that out by looking. But there was the tablets stayed around for a long time. There was, I think, about 12 different translations of the tablets until they finally disappeared. So you've got Latin, you've got forgive me, I can't remember all the other names, but you can look it up. But there was about 12 different translations over the years of the actual tablets themselves. Now, there are some people out there that contradict themselves. Dare I say it, the Y-Files. I do love his programs. It was a real shame, but he didn't. He's quite logical, but he just didn't catch on to the bit where he was talking about the tablets being 12, and then later on he talks about them being one massive stone. You can't have them both. So, yeah. The general consensus was there was. I mean, if you listen to him, he'll say that there was one that was. I think it was approximately. Forgive me for the measurements, but about 8 foot by 8 foot that had the writings in. But I would probably, knowing the Anunnaki or knowing Ningazida and stuff like that, see the tablets of destiny was small enough to be stolen and put in a little craft. So having an 8 foot by 8 foot tablet of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth just doesn't sit right with me, because that means you got more chance of damaging all of the text as opposed to one bit of the text if you drop that. So yeah, they're not daft. The Anunnaki weren't. They come across daft, but they're not that daft. So I would have said they would have been the 12 or 13 tablets that supposedly one we never got to see. Eric's wrote, I believe there is a God. Nothing can start from nothing. But then you've just contradicted yourself there, because obviously I'm going to ask, where did God come from? And if you just say mumbo jumbo that he came from nothing because he's God, then you said nothing can start from nothing. And don't say he was always here, because you just said nothing can start from nothing. You can't say that. You can't. You've just, Tammy's wrote, explain your meaning of or definition of God, please. So Elohim is the gods. So the word Elohim is gods, which was in the original Old Testament. So Elohim is the race name of the Anunnaki. And you're probably going to say, well, hang on a minute. What's Anunnaki then if it's not the race name of the Anunnaki? It's not. It's a name that was given to them when they came here to Earth by their king, which translates into, and forget Dr. Heiser, I've already destroyed him a couple of times. I even sent him an email back in 2012. I did look for it recently again, the reply, but I couldn't find it. I've got about 10,000 different email accounts for different things that I do, so probably gone now. But anyway, so I've lost my train of thought there, sorry. Meaning definition of God, Elohim, plural. So yeah, the Anunnaki was a name. Those that came from space, of course, people translate it as heaven because that's what people did back then. There is no heaven, it's space. Those that came from space to Earth, Kai being Earth, even though people like Michael Heisen says, oh, Sitchin's broke it down as if it's how you pronounce it. Oh, there's a numpty. But anyway, yeah, so, and the Igigi, which were the younger Anunnaki, the sons of God that stole, the sons of Elohim that stole human women, they were on Mars, so they were called the Igigi, which were the Watchers. That's what it translates into. So you've got, in your Bible, you've got the two you've got the Enlil and Enki, which Enki, in tablets that predate the Bible, says, I am the Lord. So either he's taking the Lord's name in vain, or he was the Lord. Yeah. Sophras wrote, you're wholesome. I'm not sure if that's me. I'll pretend it's me that you're talking to. SS has wrote, nobody's talking about this. I mean, they have, but you get people like Dr. Heiser, who worked for the British, wait for it, the Rockefellers, who we all know as, if you do your homework, you know that they've bought up museums, etc., deliberately to try and stop. Anyway, Dr. Heiser actually set up, this is how bad he wants it, he set up a website called Sitchin is Wrong. Bearing in mind, as I say, there's translations from 1912 that you can go read. But he's done a website called Sitchin is Wrong. Crazy. But he's a religious author. So the last thing he wants to do is have people believe, especially when he works for the Rockefellers, the people believe that there's aliens out there. So yeah, you can just watch my videos, and I point to where these translations are. And I break down some of the translations because not everyone understands, the Anunnaki. For example, Enki had different names, such as Ea before he came to Earth, and then Enki, which is Kai again. So not everyone understands that. So I do videos on my Patreon page as well as on here that break down and try and help people understand who the same people are, but different names over different times. Like Nimna ended up being called Ninharsag because she gave birth to the first humans, and so she was Mother God, Mother Elohim. Which then another 7 or another 6 came along and women allowed to use to create the next 6 males, and then all 7 of them created 7 females in their wombs, the first humans. And India's got the 7 mothers as well. So yeah, India's fascinating. It tells you so much without telling you. It's amazing. Just on the Panache's right. Maybe that's why France are rioting right now. Maybe, yeah. Panache's right. That is scary. It is, because if you're going back to what I was talking about earlier about the AI, yeah, it's. And the thing was, the extra thing that I didn't really mention was the fact that he did say that we're going to be in camps, and it's going to be 300 years before we get to out of that. And when he said camps, he means fires and people dying and stuff like that. And surprisingly, we had camps being made in the last 2 years while everyone was in lockdown. So you get what's coming. It's not, you don't need to be an Einstein or an Our True History to work out what's coming, especially with the alarms on the phones and the UFOs that supposedly are being seen. Sweetings M1 has no hard shoulder in preparation for AI motor cars. Yeah, it's going to be that way. And you've got to remember what we get now with the chat GPT or whatever it's called. The military are way more advanced in terms of AI. So we're only getting this now just from that's being allowed to be let out. But as we know, people have created free energy devices before in the past. And they all, if you just Google it, you'll find what happened to those unfortunate people that let the world know that they've got these free energy devices or can run things on virtually next to nothing. They all seem to disappear, or their brakes seem to foul, or they seem to unlive themselves, which we know back in the day was a thing that they to get rid of people. Anyway, sorry. Dixie's wrote, "That's if we escape World War III." Technically, this is I don't think there's going to be a world war. I think Putin knows what's going on, and he's trying to get his chess pieces in the right place. But at the same time, so is America's trying to use us lot here in Britain, etc., to back him up to get their chess pieces back into a certain country. We all know which country that is. So it's not for what you think. Putin's not daft. They had the first crashed UFO, so he knows what's going on. He knows where this is all leading. Riz the Business wrote, "This is the best channel on TikTok. I always like all the videos." Thank you. I do see that. Thank you very much. Hopefully, if you don't like one, let me know so I know, but thank you. Eric's wrote, "There were a lot of human races that no longer exist." There was. Yeah, well, there was a lot of breeding between the humans. Like I say, there was that Planet of the Apes video that I just did, which literally showed a race that was as smart as humans back then. And in fact, Enlil used that race. He sent them down from a hit. Laws. You should watch the video. It's amazing to think that Enlil used this race to go down and flush out humans that he didn't want. So he actually, you should tell you guys, you should read the tablets, read the translations. Fascinating. Sorry. I do get excited by that. Knight's Words has wrote, "Debate with God when you come in front of him." I would love to debate with Enki. You do realise that Enki is the name on the Noah tablets, not Lord, not God. So, One of us is probably right. Enki was also the name that starts on the Ten Commandment tablets. Enki, not Lord, not God, not whatever the Bible says. So one of us is probably more right than the other one. Dixie's wrote, oh no, they've gone and done it. Sweetings wrote, anyone noticed the birds chatter all night? I haven't. I listen to ocean sounds at night. Love It has wrote, I'm not sure I call him God, but I do believe that something out there created us all energy. Well, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth say, and these are ancient, say that a thought is what created the universe. Now, whether or not that was a thought from a scientist in a room with a hadron collider himself, or whether it was a thought from a creature, I don't know. Sweetings wrote, listen for the birds tonight. I'm going to have to shoot fairly soon, so anyone that's listening, I do have 1,000 odd videos covering Bigfoots and all sorts of subjects, if anyone's interested. And I have a website called ourtruehistory.co.uk, which you can go and watch all the videos in sets of 5 or sets of 50. But you can also go to the YouTube channel, which is Our True History, and watch the same sets of 5 and sets of 50. So you don't have to sit and scroll all the way to the very bottom of TikTok if you're interested in them. Riz the Business for Anunnaki were like gods, as they could control our thoughts and consciousness. They can curse us. I've never read anything about that they could control us. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't needed to have done what Enlil did, which we've got the tablets, where he literally wanted to wipe us out 10 different times using plagues and stuff, which ended up being the 10 plagues of Egypt. But yeah, I don't think they could control us. Otherwise, he wouldn't needed to have done that. Panache is right. I think the wars were done to destroy old tech and ancient buildings. Never built trains stations. They never built train stations. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think. Sawyer has wrote, I'm 5'10". I'll take an 8 foot tall. Good luck with that. Riz the Biz. At least they don't have beer bellies on any of the carvings of them. And yes, we do have carvings of the Anunnaki. Riz wrote, Anunnaki can curse us or bless us. We can pray to them using different names like Jesus and the can. I'm going to have to shoot really soon. Love It's wrote, Archangels and Anunnaki are the same in my opinion. Well, the Archangels were pilots. So when you realise that angel is messenger in Hebrew, that's what it is. I'm not messing around with it. So it should be messenger. And then when you go back to the ancient tablets and you type in messenger to search for, you'll see they're doing all the same things. They pick someone up, they fly them here, they fly them there. And that's the same what an archangel was. So you'll realise that an archangel was a pilot of some description.
Someone has sent you a WhatsApp.
Someone's just sent me a WhatsApp. So I'm going to have to shoot now. But feel free to go and follow me or watch my TikTok video, YouTube videos, etc. Sorry if I didn't get to all your questions. But I'll do another debate with someone else another time. But thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join. Wayne's wrote, you promised me next time you would make me a mod. You promised. Yeah, I did earlier on. You've got a little symbol beside your name. So yeah, you are a mod. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And I think that stays as a mod next time I'm on. So I don't know what you do as a mod, but now you're a mod. I think you can mute people and stuff like that. Okay, I'll have to leave now, but thank you everybody for a lovely evening, and hopefully I'll all talk to you very, very soon again. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.